When Shirley Jones announced she had a revelation at 91, folks anticipated a heartwarming anecdote from her history. But she grinned, folded her arms, and the mood shifted entirely. She disclosed 6 gentlemen she craved more passionately than anybody imagined. Gentlemen who caused her to overlook her dialogue, her principles, and occasionally her wiser choices over almost 60 years. And the final name she murmured was so startling that the host lost track of the live broadcast. Number 1. Frank Sinatra. The perilous attraction she knew better than to pursue. Shirley Jones always acknowledged it. Frank Sinatra represented the most hazardously captivating individual she encountered, the one she attempted to avoid falling for, yet succumbed regardless. And the instant it all transformed occurred on an evening she recalls with alarming clarity. It was 1961, behind the scenes following a performance in Palm Springs. Shirley had completed her act when Frank approached her directly, grasped her hand, strong, heated, purposeful, and leaned in to say softly, "Kid, when you step onto that platform, the entire space inhales differently." She stiffened because Sinatra rarely offered praise without purpose. Shirley confessed afterward that it seemed like a boundary he shouldn't breach. Yet deep down, she hoped he would. That was the risk. That was the allure. Frank possessed a notoriety bigger than any production company. The authority, the temper fluctuations, the erratic appeal. He was someone you avoided getting near unless prepared for the consequences. But Shirley, youthful and radiant in her emerging stardom, got pulled into his sphere like so many others. He'd occupy the front seats during her shows, not applauding, simply observing with that silent, intense concentration that led her to miss parts of her song. Observers took note, colleagues arched brows, but Shirley ignored it. When Frank gazed at you, she remarked once, "You sensed you were the sole being in existence, and that's a hazardous sensation for a lady." He rendered her anxious. He rendered her daring. He rendered her yearn for elements she recognized were unwise. Though Frank Sinatra wasn't the initial gentleman she respected, he was the initial who prompted Shirley Jones to ponder what could transpire if their spark ever moved beyond the spotlight. Number 2. Cary Grant, the refined suitor who triggered her physical response ahead of her thoughts, without notice. Cary Grant struck Shirley Jones like a bodily reflex, the initial occasion he positioned himself near enough for her to sense his exhale on her skin, and she owned up to it. Cary rendered her uneasy in a manner no other gentleman had. That's why he emerged as the subsequent gentleman she couldn't cease contemplating. Do you recall the instant that locked it in? A practice session one afternoon when a helper tinkered with her collar and botched it. Cary advanced, laid a single hand softly on her arm, and with the other realigned the material, deliberate, tender, utterly exact. Then arrived the phrase that demolished her poise. "There, now society can view you as you merit," Shirley stated afterward. He contacted me as if aware of precisely what he was inflicting on my pulse, and all present could observe it. The abrupt redness on her cheeks, how she dodged his gaze because she understood she wasn't equipped for what lay in his eyes. Cary wasn't aggressive like Sinatra. He didn't encroach. He beckoned. He would position himself at precisely the correct space, incline just sufficiently, reduce his tone by exactly the proper degree. It wasn't haphazard. Pinnacle accuracy. During one professional banquet, he didn't praise her gown, her act, or her attractiveness. He leaned in and said quietly, "You bring radiance with you, Shirley. I merely echo it." She almost let go of her utensil. Shirley admitted later, "Cary Grant was the sole gentleman who could make me sense embraced without contacting my lips." He was a gradual ignition enticement, the type that persists along your backbone well after the gentleman has departed. Number 3. Paul Newman, the virtuous fellow who evoked a risky sensation in her. What transpires when a decent fellow like Paul Newman stirs an emotion in Shirley Jones that's far from pure? It astonished her above all, since she never anticipated longing to strike her strongest with the gentleman Tinseltown lauded for his morality, not his passion. But he turned into the third gentleman she couldn't halt pondering. The instant it commenced was achingly straightforward. At a benefit event in 1964, Shirley was preparing to ascend the platform when the camera flashes overpowered her. Paul positioned himself behind her, rested one firm hand on her lower back, and murmured, "Steady, Shirley. I'm here with you." That was all. No drama, just comfort, authentic support, undeniably personal, and it rattled her. Shirley confessed later, "Paul gazed at you as if cradling your complete essence in his vision, and that's a frightening sensation." His stare wasn't voracious like Sinatra's or strategic like Cary Grant's. It was sincere. That authenticity weakened her legs more than a lure ever might. On a different night, they conversed briefly, but Paul inclined with that subdued grin and remarked, "You possess a knack for mellowing an area. I trust you're aware of that no gentleman had uttered something so mild yet so penetrating." She felt exposed, overly exposed. Paul's charm was compelling, a heat that drew you nearer before realizing the depth. Shirley admitted afterward Paul Newman rendered virtue seem perilously appealing, and that's why she succumbed to him more discreetly and more profoundly than she intended. Number 4. Dean Martin, the gentleman who neutralized her defenses with a single grin. Dean Martin became the fourth gentleman Shirley Jones conceded she succumbed to without grasping it was occurring. She wasn't meant to experience anything toward him. Martin was the relaxed type, the laid-back type, the one who rendered everything appear simple, and that was precisely the issue. Dean caused her barriers to crumble before she comprehended they existed. The instant that altered all came amid a broadcast event in the late 60s. Shirley was readying off stage, singing quietly when Dean passed by, halted, pivoted, and with that seamlessly fluid tone said, "Darling, skip the practice. You shine more when you're authentic." Then he blinked. Not the jovial blink the public recognized, but a gentler, more private one intended solely for her. Shirley conceded that gentleman could deliver one sentence, and abruptly you dismissed your concerns. And it wasn't merely a lure. Dean possessed a gentleness that ambushed you, a mild vibe concealed beneath the humor and drinks. It was the opposition that lured her. One evening, they were matched for a song practice. When she erred on a verse, Dean didn't mock her. He moved nearer, clasped her hand gently, and remarked, "Simply track my pace. I won't allow you to stumble." It wasn't seduction. It wasn't planned. It was natural. And that naturalness dispatched a surge of warmth through her she hadn't foreseen. Shirley whispered her admission. "Dean Martin rendered me feel secure in a fashion that was hazardously alluring. With Dean, the pull didn't erupt like pyrotechnics. It infiltrated softly, heated her flesh, and lingered." Number 5. Rock Hudson, the kind colossus who softened her effortlessly. Rock Hudson was the fifth gentleman Shirley Jones conceded she succumbed to in a manner she couldn't articulate and certainly couldn't manage. There was nothing boisterous or controversial about him. He was simply more reserved, more profound, and much more unnerving. The instant it transpired was so minor that nobody else registered it. Amid a packed honors practice in 1965, Shirley stumbled lightly on her gown's edge while descending a step. Before she could react, Rock's limb encircled her midsection, firm, heated, and surprisingly close, and he whispered, "Watch out, dear. I've secured you." The manner he expressed it, not showy, not coquettish, but shielding in a way that propelled a rush of warmth across her form. Shirley admitted later, "Rock supported me as if he understood precisely how to bolster a lady without creating a fuss. That's an uncommon talent." Folks always discussed his stature, his build, his screen idol appearance, but Shirley uncovered something else. Rock had a softness that caused your pulse to decelerate and accelerate simultaneously. When he beamed at her across a filming area, she sensed it in her core. When he heated her, she felt acknowledged in a way unfamiliar to her. And then came the evening they hosted together at a benefit event. As the illumination intensified and she sensed anxiety emerging, Rock tilted a bit nearer and murmured, "Simply match my tempo. We'll be flawless there." She wasn't ready for the impact it exerted on her. Shirley confessed later. With Rock, the craving wasn't volatile. It was consistent, unavoidable, and unattainable to oppose. So, now that Shirley Jones has at last unveiled the 6 gentlemen who imprinted the deepest on her existence, which name astonished you the greatest, and which one did you quietly anticipate from the start? Share with me in the comments. And if you're interested in additional undisclosed Tinseltown revelations like this, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and press the bell icon. Thanks for watching.